Okay, good evening, Rabbi. We're going to talk tonight about the issue of kavod of the rabbi and the kavod of the Talmid Chacham. Right? What does that mean? How does a person have to treat one's rabbi or any Talmid Chacham in general, a Torah scholar? What kind of status does he have in the Jewish people? We have to talk about this to understand, because there's a lot to gain from that, and there's also a lot to lose if you don't do it the proper way. So therefore, we have to go through all right to see how much we can get cover on this. First of all, I want to tell you one thing, right? Just to whet the appetite. That it says, there's a pasuk that says, right? Ve'et Hashem Elohecha tira. It says in the Chumash like this, right?
Yes,
the Lord your God, you shall fear. That's what it says, right? Et Hashem Elokecha tira. It says in the Bible.
You should fear your God.
Right. You have to fear the Lord your God. That's what it says. So comes Rabbi Akiva and says, there's one word in the pasuk over there which is extra. Which word is that? Et. The word et doesn't really mean anything. It's like a filler, like the, the man, et. The. What is that? I could also write without et. I don't need the word. So it's really the word et is like superfluous. So therefore, many times what happens is that the rabbis darshan the word et. They extrapolate the word, and interpolate the word in order to get some meaning out of that, some kind of a new idea, some kind of novel idea. That's what they do. Et is extra word. So here comes Rabbi Akiva and says, what does that mean? Et Hashem Elokecha tira. You should fear the Lord your God. The word et is coming to add what? Tamidei Chachamim. That a person has to fear also Tamidei Chachamim as well. He has to have fear of them. Right? So what's the reason why a person has to have fear of Tamid Chacham? He's just a flesh and blood like everybody else, no? He's a bag of bones like everybody else. Basar vadam, right? As they say. So what's there to fear? So the fear is like this, right? That since the Talmid Chacham studies Torah, and that should be his main pursuit. That's the idea, right? The Talmid Chacham, the main pursuit should be Torah. He should be studying Torah most of the day, not to go out and do all kinds of things, run here, run there. This is not always the job of Talmid Chacham, right? To be, especially in our generation, Talmid Chacham should be mostly in the field of Torah, studying Torah, teaching Torah, learning Torah, and the community should be supporting him. Why? Because otherwise he can't do all these things. He doesn't have the wherewithal to do it if the community doesn't give him a salary. So therefore, the community has an obligation to give a salary to Talmid Chacham. So therefore, he can devote all his time, to furthering the causes of the community, to teach them Torah, to educate them, to uplift them, teach them all kinds of things. This is the way it has to be. So this is like the ABCs of what it means, right? This idea. But the point is that the Talmid Chacham, since his whole occupation centers around Torah, the study of Torah, the teaching of Torah, dissemination of Torah, so therefore the Torah is the mind of God. This is what it is. The mind of God is Torah. What does that mean? Whatever you see in the oral Torah and the written Torah, how things are structured over there and taught, this is like this is like that, this is the halakha, this is this halakha, that halakha, or this is the drash, this is the remez, this is the sod, this is whatever it is. All these things are the mind of God. The Torah is all the mind of God. You know what they say, right? That the truth is, if you take a Sefer Torah, it says in Zohar Kadosh, and you open it up, Gadash Haleh, Sefer Torah. They say that the whole Sefer Torah is just one name of God. Can you imagine? The whole Torah is one name of God. So what does that mean? The whole Torah is the essence of God. You know what I mean? Our Torah is not some kind of a man-made thing, some kind of a concoction, some kind of this, something new that people made, that man-made. No, this is something which is, every letter of the Torah is God. This is what it is. This is not some kind of a game. You know what I mean? You cannot play games with that. So they say, by the way, also, every neshama, every Jewish neshama is in the Torah. What does that mean? Every letter which is in the Torah is one Jewish neshama. There are, fundamentally 600,000 neshamot, like there were in the desert, right? We have fundamentally 600,000 fundamental neshamot in the Jewish people. The rest is just like, like subdivisions of that. You understand? In other words, you break one up, you get 5. You break 5, you get 20. Subdivisions, it's fragments, fragmentation. But basically, the root of the Jewish people is 600,000 neshamot, right? And this is exactly what we have in the Torah. We have a letter for each one of them. This is the idea, Can you imagine?
How How many letters in there?
It's supposed to be like that. That's the way it's supposed to be. Yeah, we have in the Torah, every letter corresponds to one Jew, something like that. Okay, but that's not really the main focus over here. The main focus is that the Torah is basically a function of God. So what does that mean? That the Torah and God and the Jewish people, it's all one. We are in the Torah, the Jewish people. The God is the Torah, and so we are all one unit. We function as one unit, one family, one extended family. That's what it is. You know what I mean? The Jewish people are very, very special. That's why we're called the chosen people. You know, because we are one of those souls of the Torah. You know, that's what we are. We're not just regular human beings. That's not what it is, right? So it's all one. So what does that mean? That in order to have the oneness of God, you also have to have the oneness of the Jewish people as well, right? Unity. Right? They shouldn't be fighting with each other, you know? This one fought with this one fights with that one, this doesn't speak to him, you know? They're not on talking terms. Why not on talking terms? What happened? What? He killed you? What did you do? He killed your mother? What did you do? What did you do that you not talk with him, you know? So forgive the guy, he did something to you, offended you a little bit. So swallow your pride a little bit, chakla petzota, What's the big deal? We're all one unit, the Jewish people is one unit. God, Jewish people, and Torah is all one big unit. So what does that mean? That the Talmid Chacham, what's his job? To study the Torah and to teach the Torah. So he's in the mind of God, And this is the reason why you have to fear the Talmid Chacham. Because if you don't fear him, that means you don't fear God. That's what it is, right? He's the agent of God in this world. A person who's really a Talmid Chacham. Right? We have to discuss what that means, by the way, also. What does that mean? We talked about that before. But the point is like this, right? That because of this, the Torah gives us.
More you teach, more you become.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. You're right. You're right. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. That's the way it is. Absolutely. Yeah. You're right. You have to teach to the people, Torah.
Somebody say he was telling me 2,000 people and he teaches.
That's it. My rabbi used to tell us, by the way, he used to tell everybody, all his talmidim, all the students that he had. The reason why you're learning Torah over here is one day you have to go out and teach the Torah to the Jewish people. Not because you have to keep it to yourself.
Yes.
This is very selfish,
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Every Talmid Chacham has an obligation to disseminate Torah. He has to give classes.
How many?
You have to give classes to the Jewish people. On Shabbat, on weekdays, there should be always Torah going on. This is exactly what we want to do with the upstairs room, right up there. We want to make over there yeshiva, right? We don't need a catering hall up there. We have one downstairs or a catering hall. Another catering hall you want, but you want to make parties. That's not the idea. The idea is to have Torah, There's places that has to be played Makom Torah. So that's the idea. So the Talmid Chacham, this is the reason why he has to be somebody who's revered. How far does it go, by the way, right? In order to understand the kavod of the Talmid Chacham, we have to understand a little bit this idea. So the first thing it says in Shulchan Aruch regarding this, it says, Chayad Adam bichvod rabo ve'irato yoter mibeshel aviv. A person is obligated to honor his rabbi and fear his rabbi more than his parents. You know that, right? More than the parents. So what does that mean? It says in the 10 Commandments, right? The 5th commandment says, Kaved et avicha ve'imecha. Jimmy, we talk about this. Which commandment is it, right? Number 5, number 6, right? There's all kinds of things, right? Number 5, right? It's established, right? So it says, right? Kaved et avicha ve'imecha. So it says in Shulchan Aruch, okay, yes, but the rabbi even more. Can you imagine? Your rabbi have to honor him even more than your parents. And what's the reason, by the way, for that? Why should the rabbi be better than your parents? Your parents, that's what we're saying. More or less, right? That's the idea. Don't catch me on the words now, right? So now, what am I telling you? So the Chazal say a very simple answer for that. You know why that is? Because your parents brought you to Olam Hazeh, to this world. Your rabbi is bringing you to Olam Haba. By the way, that's what a rabbi really is. He should bring you to Olam Haba. He should be the next world, right? Olam Haba. The real world, right? This is just a warm up over here, right? Preparation. Exactly, right? Exactly. The testing. That's the idea. Exactly, examination. So you believe? Okay, very good. We also believe. Me and Jimmy, we also believe.
I honestly hope so.
Okay. Chance stamps. Okay. So now, what's the idea over here? The idea is that since your rabbi brings you to Olam Haba, which is the real world, which is everlasting, here it's just temporary. How long does a person live over here? 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, whatever it is, right? He doesn't stay here forever. It's something very temporary. So your parents brought you to this world, but your rabbi brings you to Olam Haba. So what does that mean? A rabbi, that's the definition of what a rabbi is. Somebody who brings you to Olam Haba. What does that mean? You know? The rabbi has to give you madlebi. Torah, mitzvot, maasim tovim, right? He has to increase your Torah. He has to increase your fear of God. This is the job of the rabbi. He has to bring you close to God and bring you to Olam Haba. This is the idea, you know? If he's not doing that, by the way, all he does is to just take your money. This is not a good rabbi, you know? He takes your money but gives you nothing. That's not a rabbi. A rabbi means he gives you Olam Haba. He gives you Torah. He gives you mitzvot. Right? This is what the rabbi is. If he's giving you Olam Haba, that's what a rabbi should be. So now we understand why he's more obligated. So what does that mean? There are actually practical implications over here. This is not just some kind of theoretical thing here. What does that mean? I'll give you an example, right? For instance, the classic case is, let's say your rabbi lost something and your father lost something, right? They both lost something. You know? So you found them, you know, both of them. Which one should you return first? First to your rabbi, it says, right? Then to your father. Because you have to give the rabbi the first place. Because he brings you to Olam Haba. That's the idea, right? Okay, very good. You understand, you get the idea. Tells you further on over here something else. In the Shulchan Aruch, it says, Kol hacholek al rabo kecholek al hashchina. If a person is cholek on his rabbi, what does that mean, a cholek? That means he argues with him. I'll explain to you what that means. Not exactly what you might think. Right?
Don't scare me.
In other words, he's like that means cholek means like, you know, he's like setting himself a different course, you know, than the rabbi. So you go this way, I go this way, you know. I don't like the way you go. I want to go a different way in life, you know. Cholek, you're like going on a different path. I don't like the way you go. This is the idea, right? So it's like you're cholek on the shechina. That means that what? That a person has to know that the rabbi, if he's a real chacham, that he's like the shechina, you know, God's presence is on him, you know. So not allowed to do like that, you know, to separate yourself from him. Say, you know, oh, you go this way, I don't go the other way. I don't go like that. You know, it's not my way. What do you mean it's not your way? You have to go in the ways of the Torah. What does that mean? It's not your way. That's the idea, right? So therefore, it's like that. It says in Shulchan Aruch, whoever makes a fight with his rabbi, you know, you know, like he's fighting with the Shekhinah. That's what it says, right? It says whoever complains against his rabbi, like he's complaining against the Shekhinah. Look what it says also, right? Even further than that. There are some times that a person will not say verbally, right, anything, but he thinks something bad. You know what I mean? Something bad about his rabbi, you know? So what does it say? Even if you think something about the rabbi bad, it's like you're thinking about the Shekhinah. Bad, something like against God, in other words. That's what it is, right? So what does that mean? That a person's rabbi is like his ticket to God, you know? It's like your ticket. So you got to guard that ticket, you know what I mean? You got to make sure the ticket is guarded. That's the idea. Otherwise, right, whatever you do to him, that's the way you treat God. That's what it is. You know what I mean? Very good. So now it explains to you what this means, right? Get a little bit further into the details. We said, right, whoever takes a different path than his rabbi, it's like he's taking a different path from God. So what does that mean? You may think, right, simple meaning, you may think that, oh, you know, don't ever argue with your rabbi, like, you know, like have some debate Torah discussion, you know? Oh, you know, like, you know, go back and forth a little bit, you know? That's not what it's talking about. A person is allowed to ask questions to his rabbi, you know, some difficulties, you know, this, that, you know? What about this? What about that? What about this? This is what a rabbi is for, you know? The rabbi is not some you know, rubber stamp, you know, just no, you have to get into it, you know, with him. You know what I mean? That's the idea. We're not talking about that. That's not the issue. So what is the issue? The issue is like this, right? Huh?
I'm saved.
For sure, yeah. I mean, we all did that. You know, I mean, we all were like that, more or less. You know, more or less, more than others. So, but you know what it is? It says over here like this, right? What does it mean, cholek al rabo? That he goes in a different path than his rabbi. It means that he opens his own yeshiva. You know, let's say his rabbi has a yeshiva. You know what I mean? And he goes and opens another yeshiva. You know, competes with him. You know, ejibreba. You know, like, you know, competing with him. Ekamateba. You know, like this. You know, this is like a chutzpah. You know. Don't go to do something like that. So what does that mean? That as long as the person's rabbi is alive, right? As long as your rabbi is alive, you're not allowed to open a yeshiva outside of his yeshiva, unless you get permission from him. You go to him and you say, "Listen, Rabbi, I want to open a yeshiva in a different town. Can you give me permission?" So he says, "Yes." Oh, okay. So then you get permission. As long as your rabbi is alive, get permission from him. To open a new yeshiva, a new bet knesset, or whatever it is, right? Because you're now establishing like a new system over here. Without him, which is the chutzpah. You know what I mean? It's not nice to do that. Okay, that's the idea. So then, but says the Ramah over here one thing, right? That when it comes to psak halacha, when it comes to halacha, are you allowed to argue with the rabbi in halacha? Say, Rabbi, I don't agree with you with this halacha. I say like this, you say like that. So the truth is, that if he knows how to do that, he's very learned enough to do that. He's allowed to argue with his rabbi. You can tell him, listen, I have a source that goes against you. What do you say about this? I don't like the way you say it. This one says like that. If he knows how to do that, he's trained enough to argue with his rabbi in halacha, he's allowed to do. Because this is the way of the Torah. There comes the rabbi, says one, comes the Talmid and argues with him, if he's on a level. This is what we had, right? Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan was the rabbi of Resh Lakish. You know the story, right? The story is that Resh Lakish was a banditi, he was a gangster, Resh Lakish. Mafia guy, So what happened was that he was a chief mafia, chief gangster. So what happened was that one day, Rabbi Yochanan went to bathe. Where did he go to bathe? In the lake, Tabashi, Flushing Meadow Park. You wouldn't want to go there, believe me. But I don't recommend it. Right? So he went over there, Rabbi Yochanan, to bathe. The story goes in the Gemara. So what happened was that Rabbi Yochanan was a very good-looking guy, very handsome, So Resh Lakish was there on top of the hill, watching him, as he went into bathe. He thought it was a girl, Goglegona, Nasha Biegona, Nasha, So he said, wow, what a chick, this is something, whoa, big time, So what did he do? He wanted to get her, he was a gangster, So he jumped inside the water to try to grab her, Gamochiros, Muitazos. That's the idea, right? The Georgian style, That's the idea, right? So he went over there. So he jumps into the water. He says, "Oh man, you're a man. You got muscles, man. You got biceps. You got a hairy chest. Who are you? I thought you were a lady. What are you? So he says, "Oh, I'm a rabbi. How are you? Nice to meet you. Who are you? Oh, okay, nice to meet you." So he tells him, he says, "Man, I thought you were a girl. Now I'm really upset because I thought I was gonna, get, So Rabbi Yochanan tells him like this. He says, let me ask you a question. Who are you? What's your job? What's your profession?" So he tells him, "I'm a gangster, more or less, right? In simple words, right?" So he tells him, he says, "You know what?" He says, "I'll offer you, make you a deal." So I have a sister who's better looking even than me, looks even better than me. If you do tshuva and you learn Torah, I'll give you my sister to marry, So he took it, he went for it, he went for the bait, Yalla. So that's how Resh Lakish became a chacham.
Yeah, and he really came.
He was, probably like middle aged, or young, whatever. He was not a kid, right?
And he
Rabbi
started,
Akiva was 40.
Yeah, it was 40. He was 40, exactly 40.
So Resh Lakish-
Yeah. Resh Lakish was after Rabbi Akiva, right?
he started no more gangster.
Yeah, right. He became a chacham migachta,
Chachamikach.
This is what happened to Resh Lakish. So what happened was that Rabbi Yochanan taught Resh Lakish, for a long time, every day learning Torah, Chinachuloben, back and forth, So what happened was that eventually Resh Lakish became a big gaon, gaonigachta, Whoa, big chacham, like Rabbi Yochanan, same level. You know what I mean? Gaon. So now they used to argue with each other, back and forth. I say like this, you say like that. Kamatobden, Chinachulobden, So what happened was that if you look in the Talmud, about 10% of the Talmud is like, machloket between Resh Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. That's how it is, right? So what does that mean? We see from there that a person is allowed to argue with his rabbi. This is the way of the Torah. You know what I mean? As long as you know how to do it, you got to that level that you know how to argue. But if you're just talking nonsense, so first train yourself, before you talk, spew out some things, it's just shtuyot, nonsense, Sisula Levi. I like that. You have to first learn how to live, to be trained.
How long?
Well, when they brought him here to be the rabbi, at that time I was already here. Yeah, we were already here.
Yeah, he was over here.
Yeah, we were here. We were kids, we were like teenagers. Yeah, he's like about a year or two older than me. So when he came, we were like pretty much the same age.
How long do you know him?
So when he came, when I got to know him.
Okay.
Talking about like.
What kind of rabbi he is?
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. Right, we're televising, you know. We'll tell you the secrets. We'll tell you later. It's all the secrets. We'll tell you. Okay. So now let's get moving, right? So what we said is like this, right? You're allowed to argue with your rabbi. It's allowed to do that, as long as you know how to do it. You don't have to be like some kind of a dope, you know, just clone, you know. Just okay, rabbi, yeah. Okay, that's good, you know. Everything is just like yeah. Doesn't work like that. You have to make some, you know, this discourse has to be some challenge. There has to be some, as long as you're doing it for the right reason, you know, not just, you know, to make a balagan. Actually, you want to say something important, something which is important to you, whatever it is, right? That's the idea. So that's the way it is. Okay, very good. But there's also something else over there, which is what? That a person is not allowed to paskin halacha in front of his rabbi. What does that mean? That somebody comes and asks a question in halacha, and instead of allowing the rabbi to answer, this guy comes and jumps in and answers for him. You know, like this, right? But what are we talking about over here? We're talking here about a case where it's really like a real case in halacha. What does that mean? Somebody had a real question, a real actual question, a reality question, not just something in theory, right? So if there was a real question about a real case, and comes this guy and jumps in front of his rabbi and answers the question like that, you know, without letting the rabbi say what he has to say, jumps in front like that, right? You know, there's a similar story like that in the Chumash. One is that they say that when Eliezer came to take Rivka, you know, to marry Yitzchak, so what happened was that Eliezer told over the story how he met Rivka over there at the well, the whole story over there, how it transpired, all these things, right? So what happened was that once he told the story over, so what happened was that jumped in Lavan all of a sudden, right? And he said, "Oh, he says, if that's the case, this must be from God, you know. So let her go with you and be your master's wife." So the comment over there, the Chazal regarding this, right? They say, "You see for me that Lavan was a Rasha. Why is that? Because Betuel, his father, was there. He jumped in front of his father and talked, you know. What's it to you to make comments like this? Let your father talk, you know. You're sitting on the table with your father, you know. Let him talk. Let him run the show. You jumping in front like, you know, oh, you know, Mr. Cool, you know. It shows that he's Rasha. So the same thing also when it comes to the rabbi, you know. This guy jumps in. Instead of letting the rabbi answer, he comes in and jumps in and answers. What are you jumping in and answering for? But we're talking about here, in general, right, as a general idea, here we're talking about an actual case of halacha. That's the idea, right? So a person should let his rabbi answer when it comes to that. There are a couple of stories in Gemara. It says like this, right? That there was one Talmid who came and paskined halacha in front of his rabbi, like this, that we just mentioned. And the rabbi said like this, you know, there's one of the rabbis who saw this episode. He commented, he says, I'll be surprised if this guy finishes the year, you know, he's going to die. You know? He's going to go to Olam Haba, you know? That's the idea. So they say, it says in Gemara, just like he said, he didn't finish the year. What does that mean? Because they say, no, not because of curse. They say that what? That a person who paskins halacha in front of his rabbi is chayav mita, liable to death, from Shemaim. Understand? Not because of curse. That's the idea. So you have to be very careful about that. But what are we talking about, right? And we have to understand. We have to qualify this whole thing to understand, because it doesn't apply to every case, doesn't apply to every situation. So what does that mean? So it's telling you like this, right? I'll tell you in a second. So he's telling you like this, that when you have a situation when somebody comes and asks halacha, the truth is that sometimes a person is allowed to answer. You know when that is? He's not answering from his own dot, but something he saw in a book, you know, like he's quoting a book.
Or he learned from his teacher.
Yeah, the same thing, the same idea, right? He learned from his teacher, or he's quoting from a book or something like that. So in a case like that, that's not really what we're talking about. That it's, you know, he's liable to death in a case like that. We're not talking about that. We're talking about he's using his own judgment now to render a decision on his own judgment. You know what I mean? That's the idea. In a case like that, he's chayav mita. That's the idea, right? But when it comes to a case like that, he's just quoting some book, or he's also telling you something which is just something, simple also. Let's say, for instance, right, somebody comes and asks, let me ask you, Rabbi, are eggs bastari or are they parv? So everybody knows eggs are parv. It's no big secret. So if you tell a person eggs are parv, it's called psak halacha? No, this is something everybody knows that. Shulchan Aruch, everybody knows. So that's not called psak halacha. Psak halacha means you're saying something like a new idea here. A novel idea, something new, something revolutionary over here, something right.
You have to deduce a new.
Right, exactly. Exactly. That's the idea. If he does that, he renders something like that on his own decision, on his own judgment. This is where the problem comes in. Right, exactly. Very good. Let's go on. But there are also another exception which is we have regarding this. The exception is like this: if a person, let's say, sees somebody, he's sitting with his rabbi, right, hanging around with his rabbi, talking about Rabbi Torah, whatever it is, and all of a sudden comes somebody and does something which is forbidden, in front of the rabbi. So he's allowed to scream at the person, this is what you're doing is forbidden, even though it's like a psak halacha. But in order to remove him from the sin, therefore he's allowed to do that. That's also another idea. So this is also an exception to the rule that we made. There are many exceptions to this rule. That's the idea. Why is that? Because you want to save the person from sinning. This is not just some kind of a rendering of the halacha. This is you want to save somebody. That's the idea, right? You want to save him. So since you want to save him, it's allowed to do. That's the idea. Very good. There's also another idea which is like this, right? And it says in Masechet Eruvin, "Bimkom chilul Hashem, kol makom sheish chilul Hashem, lo mechabedim et harav." Very important to understand that. What does that mean? When something is being done wrong, in general, right, by anybody, it could be also the rabbi himself. We don't give kavod to the rabbi in a case like that. What does that mean? Let's say the rabbi himself is transgressing the halacha. He forgot whatever it is, or he didn't know. He never learned this halacha. Whatever it is, I don't know. So the point is that you're allowed to even rebuke the rabbi. And tell him, this is against the halacha what you're doing.
This yesterday, now you are doing this yourself.
Right, that's the idea, right? Yeah, that's the way you got to do it, right? More kavod like this. To say, listen, didn't you teach us that this is not allowed like that to do? Say it like this in this way. Same thing with the parents, by the way. A person should tell his parents that way also. Don't tell them what you're doing is wrong. You should tell them, didn't you teach me remember when we were 12 years old, you told me this is like this, so then why are you doing it like that? Mm-hmm. That's the idea, right? That's the whole thing. So here also, a person is allowed, when it comes to Chilul Hashem, what does that mean? The name of God is being desecrated. How is the name of God being desecrated? How does that work? It's being desecrated by the fact that there's being a sin being done in public. So therefore, in order to prevent the sin from being done in public, a person doesn't have to consider the kavod of the rabbi. What does that mean? Even though he's saying it right in front of his rabbi, he's giving him no respect. But in order to prevent the sin, he's allowed to do it. Even if the sin is the rabbi himself. Because when it comes to Chilul Hashem, so we have to weigh two things over here, right? The one is the kavod of the rabbi, and one is the kavod of God. Yeah. So then the kavod of God wins out. You know what I mean? That's very simple. So therefore, the rabbi never gets kavod in a place when there's Chilul Hashem. This is the idea. Very logical, right? Very good. Very good. Now another thing, right, which is also very, very important to understand. It tells you Shulchan Aruch over here. Talmid shelo higia lehora umoreh. This is a problem, by the way, with very many people, especially people who are studying Torah. Like Torah students. What does it say over here? Talmid shelo higia lehora umoreh. A person who didn't get to the level of paskin halacha, he's not educated enough for that. But he paskins anyway, He thinks, I'll guess my way through, I'll improvise, embellish, Right, that's the idea. So what do we say about a person like that? Says the Shulchan Aruch, right? He's shoteh, he's an idiot, rasha, and he's also an arrogant person, right? We cover him from all sides. Right? That's the idea. Why is that? Because you haven't first become a posek. You haven't get that level. Why are you just guessing? Saying all kinds of guesswork. I think it should be like. You think it should be like that?
You
what does that have to do with that?
Diploma to be a posek, or
it's a good question what you're asking.
I'm just
curious. Right? It's a good question what you're asking. The truth is that this goes, by the way, both ways. This issue of having a diploma, which is called like smicha, hasmacha, right? Okay. Smicha, hasmacha. You should know it goes two ways. What does that mean? There are people who have hasmacha, they have smicha, but they don't know how to paskin halacha. You know what I mean? There are people who don't have smicha, but they do know how to paskin halacha. It goes both ways. What does that mean? The main thing is not the diploma. The main thing is the training. You have to be trained for that. You know? That's the idea. The diploma is just a piece of paper. You know? But it doesn't always prove the point. It's like it's supposed to. You know why? Because some people get away with the test. They know how to cheat. They know how to work around the questions. They know how to play games with the questions. They also copy some people, you know? They also copy. They cheat. So if a person went to a test, you know, to become a rabbi, he cheated. It happens, by the way. He cheated. So is that a rabbi? No, he's a fake rabbi. Mm-hmm. You know? But he got through. He has a diploma. If you ask him, here it is right on the wall, right? But he cheated. They say that there was one guy, you know, it's a true story in Israel, right? In Israel, there's many people taking these tests over there to become rabbis. Many, you know, it's a big group. It's a big field. Every year, a big field of people. So what happens is, right, that they say one time, instead of learning the material to pass the test, so what did he do, this guy? He took a notebook that somebody else already who passed the test had, everything written down, you know, he just took his notebook and studied that and passed the test. So what does that mean? He didn't really study the sources. He did like a very short, a big shortcut. And he's not really qualified to paskin halacha.
Isn't it a Hilul Hashem?
It is. But they don't care.
If you are going with the kippah and with the talit and you call yourself a rabbi, you are the first one that's to transgress.
You know what the Gemara says about that, right? They say that when a Talmid Chacham makes a Chilul Hashem like that, he gets two gainam, one for being a Jew and one for being a rabbi, you know? He got two gainam. Only Jojocheti. That's the idea. You know, there's a big question, by the way, regarding this, because there's a certain contradiction. What does that mean? On the one hand, they say, the Chazal, that a person who learns Torah, Talmid Chacham, the flames of Gehinnom cannot burn him, because the Torah protects him. In other words, he may have to go to Gehinnom, physically, to go there, but the flames cannot get him. So what does that mean? They're going to pass him over, and he's going to be guarded.
Lightly framed.
Right, exactly, right. That's singed, lightly. But he's not going to be hurt by that. But the fact that he has to pass over is also a punishment, he has to see that. And, witness that, it's also terrible to see. Something terrible to see, Just like the third floor, even worse than that, right? Okay, so that's the idea, right? So, here also it's the same thing. So then what happens like this, right? That they say something amazing. I saw a big chidush, a big new idea that I didn't know. So then you may wonder, how would anybody who's a Talmid Chacham be punished for his sins? You know what I mean? If the flames of Gehinnom cannot burn him, so then what did they do to the guy? If he was really a big Rasha, let's say, like Doeg Adomi, Achitofel, these people who were big sinners, you know what I mean? How did they get punished? So you know what the answer is? Something unbelievable. They say in the Zohar Kadosh over there, something unbelievable. They say that the way they punish him is that they first cause him to forget his Torah. They do some kind of trick on his mind that all the Torah should be forgotten. And once he forgets the Torah, then they take him to Gehinnom. That's what they do to him. Because as long as he remembers the Torah, they cannot get him. Can you imagine something like this? They make him forget it. The truth is, right, that this idea, which is in the Zohar Kadosh, it's also corroborated in the Bible. Where do we see this idea? You know where it is? Something unbelievable. This is brought down in the Sefer Shemuel, the book of Shmuel, which talks about David HaMelech, right? So what happens over there is that Doeg Adomi had a big sin that he did, right? He spoke Lashon Hara about David HaMelech. He squealed on him. He sold him out, right? So because of the Lashon Hara that he spoke, all the Kohanim over there in the Bet HaMikdash and in the Mishkan, they all died. Shaul killed them because of this Lashon Hara. It's a long story. I'm not going to get into it, right? But the point is like this, right? That Doeg Adomi, because of all the sins that he did, by the way, he was the one who personally killed those Kohanim. He personally killed them. Because Shaul told Avner, who was his general, chief of staff, he told Avner, go kill them. So Avner was like, hesitating. He said, oh man, I'm not going to kill these people. I'm not going to kill Kohanim. What are you, crazy? You lost your freaking mind? What's going on over here? So he just froze. Exactly right, exactly. So when Shaul saw that Avner froze, what did he do? He tells Doeg Adomi, "You're the one who sold them out, so you go and kill them. You're the one who squealed on them." So he did it. He went and he killed every one of them by his own hands. Took a sword, chopped up everybody. Over 100 Kohanim over there, he killed over there, in that place. So what happened was that because of this big sin that he did, obviously, he had to get great punishment on that.
But he was told to do it.
Right, but he should have refused. When the king tells you to do a sin, even the king you're not allowed to listen to. You know what I mean? He tells you to do a sin, you're not allowed to listen to him. So, as we said, right, whose kavod is bigger, the king or the melech, right? Melech malchei melachim. God is bigger than the king, So that's the way it is.
He sacrificed his life for God in that case.
Shaul wouldn't have killed him because he didn't kill Avner either. He needed those people. He needed them because they were generals.
So he did it with pleasure.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole thing. He did it with pleasure. So now what happened was, right, that Doeg Adomi, he had to be punished. So what happened was that how do you punish somebody like that, right? This guy was a big chacham, Doeg Adomi. He was the chief of the Sanhedrin, Abir Erohim, right? He was the chief judge of the Sanhedrin at that time. How do you punish somebody like that? He's full of Torah. So you know what they say, right? The story goes over there. There's a story that comes when David HaMelech was fighting against one of the battles against Amalek that he had before he actually became king, right? So what happens is that the Shaul at that time died in the battle against the Pelishtim. There was a war. He died over there, Shaul, and then David became king, right? That's the idea. But at that point, what happened was that there's a young man comes to speak to David. What does he tell him? He says, Shaul died. Wow, you got lucky. Now you're going to become king, right? No, celebrate. Break out the champagne. Let's go, right? Shaul is dead. All his sons are dead. That's it, right? You're going to be next in line. So David tells him. He says, "Tell me." He says, "How did he die?" So this guy tells him. He says, he wanted to commit suicide because the archers of the Pelishtim were ready to kill him. So he asked his weapons bearer, just kill me before they come and get me, because they're gonna disgrace me, they're gonna torture me. So what happened was that his weapons bearer refused to kill him. He said, "I'm not gonna kill you. You're the king. What am I lost my mind? I'm not killing you." So what happened was, because it comes and tells him, this young guy, he says, instead of him, I did it. I went and I killed him myself. So now what happens, right? Comes David and says, "You admitted, right? You admitted that you killed the king." He says, "I'm going to kill you for that. I'm going to execute you." Okay. Your own mouth admitted it.
But it's a mercy killing by the order of the king.
It's a good question what you're asking. So you know what the answer is? That the halacha says in a case like that, David felt that he wasn't allowed to kill him. Anyway, he wasn't allowed. He wasn't allowed to do what he did.
Right, because you wait till the last second and see what happens.
Yeah, this is exactly what you're saying is very, very right. You know why? Because there is a halacha like this, which we find in the Gemara that we learned Daf Yomi a couple of days ago. It says over there that even if a sword is placed on your neck, you should still pray to Hashem. Don't give up hope. You know what I mean? So here also, a person shouldn't give up hope. So what does that mean? So David told him, he says, "You admitted that you killed the king of Israel. I'm going to kill you." So they say, by the way, some Mefarshim, who was this young man? So David asked him, he says, "Who are you?" Before he killed him, he asked him, he says, "Who are you?" So he says, "I'm the son of a convert from Amalek. My father was Amalek convert." Wow, So some say, Mefarshim, who was this guy? He was Doeg Adomi, this guy. You know what I mean? So now this is a very strange thing. Why is it very strange? Because Doeg Adomi, first of all, David knew him. You know who he was. So why are you asking him, who are you? What kind of thing is this? How can you say that this is Doeg Adomi? And he tells him, he says, "I'm a son of this and this." What a son? I'm Doeg, you should tell him. I Doeg. How does that fit in? So you know what the answer is? According to Zohar Kadosh, it all fits in. That what happened was that they made him forget all his Torah, Doeg Adomi, because of the sin that he did of killing Kohanim. So what happened was that now, at this point, he already forgot everything. He didn't remember nothing.
But the physical appearance changed also?
I don't know exactly what it was. Maybe he was shaven or whatever, he shaved his beard. Something was, exactly, he didn't recognize him, He changed because he lost his Torah. He became a regular guy, Somebody you see on the subway, Somebody like that, right? So, what happened was that David killed him. So they say that was the Agadami. So now we understand what that means, right? That he forgot his Torah and now he was ready to be punished. So therefore, he went to the Olam. This is the idea.
Scary stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty scary, right?
Very scary.
So that's what happened with the Agadami. So that's exactly what they do with Talmid Chacham. If he has Torah, they get him anyway. Nobody escapes. That's the idea, right? What does that mean? We're talking about Talmid Chacham who's a Rasha. He did some big sins like this. Like Doi Gadomi, If he's a Rasha like this, they're going to get him, His Torah is not going to save him from murder, from murdering somebody. What do you think, You're that good? No Torah is that good. Excuse me, That's the idea. Okay, very good. So, what we're saying over here is like this, right? That a person who didn't get to the level of being a posek should not paskin halacha. Don't ever say to somebody, oh yeah, I know what the halacha is. How do you know what the halacha is? Okay, if you saw it in a book, fine. If you heard from a rabbi, fine. Say I heard from this rabbi, whatever it is, right? But you yourself are deciding the halacha. This is not allowed to do that, right? So therefore, we call this person shoteh, rasha, vegastruach, right? Arrogant, rasha, and an idiot.
All bases covered.
Right, all bases covered. Exactly, right? That's the idea. And it's also another thing, right, which is even more deep than this. It says in the Zohar Kadosh regarding this also another thing, which is something unbelievable, and it also corroborated here. It fits in very well together. The Gemara says like this, right? A person who does these kinds of things, what does the pasuk say about him? Ki rabim chalalim hipila. This pasuk is from Mishlei. We're learning Mishlei, right? A little bit. This is from Perek Zayin. So what does it say over there? It says, right, that he has killed many people. He has murdered many people. That's what it's saying. So it's coming and telling you the person who paskins halakha the wrong way has killed many people.
Makes sense.
So according to the simple meaning, what does that mean? That he caused them to sin, and maybe because they died because of that. I don't know. God knows what, right? All kinds of things like this. But the truth is, right, that according to the deeper meaning over here, there's a much deeper meaning going on here. Which is what? It says the Zohar Kadosh over there. It comes in Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai and tells his Talmidim. He tells them, don't make up from your own mind things from the Torah that you never heard before. Like these new fangled ideas, Oh yeah, I got a brainstorm. What brainstorm? You never got this from anywhere. You just made it up from your own head. By the way, there's a subtle difference between making a chidush and doing something like this. It may look the same to the average person, but it's not. What does that mean? Making a chidush, a novel idea in Torah, something new. How does it work? You have to take established first, sources, build on that something, and on that make some kind of a new idea which is based on sources. In other words, you've got a foundation to work on. This is the way to make a chidush, a new idea. What is the foolish way to do it? To make up something from your own heart, just like with no basis, just say, oh, I think it was like this. Why would you think it's like that? Like, you have any basis for that? You have any source for that? You have anything to hang your head on? Nothing. You just made it up from your own. So says Rabbi Shimon to this Talmidim, if you do this, you should know you're doing a very big sin. Making up things like this from your own head. Where did you get such a thing like that?
What's a pirush in that case?
I'm sorry?
Ga pirusha.
Perush means to explain something, right? Achzaga Marta,
Achzaga.
Yeah. Chidush means a novel idea, something new, right? Chidush is very, very important. But not like this when you have no basis, when you have nothing to base on. Just saying, oh yeah, it's like this, like that. Who told you these things? You're just making it up like that? So says Rabbi Shimon, he tells us Talmidim like this, says, if you do these kinds of things like this kind of monkey business, you know what's going to happen? You're going to cause people in the world to die. People are going to be murdered because of you. What does that mean? We're not talking about people who got wrong advice from them. That's the simple explanation. But Rabbi Shimon says something even further, that people die because of this, just randomly. Because of people who give psak halacha without knowing what they're talking about.
And who died? The people that he gave the halacha to?
No, it could be anybody else.
Random.
Yeah, randomly people die. What does that mean? They also have some sins, obviously, right? Nobody dies without any sins. But what happens is that he causes these deaths because of the fact that he gives wrong psak halacha. So what does that mean? Giving wrong psak halacha is considered to be like a perversion of justice. One of the worst things that a person can do, just say something. Oh yeah, I think, what think? Where did you find that? Where did you see that? What's your basis? What are you building on? What's the logic there? What's the thought pattern? Where does this come from? I think so. You think so. Thank you very much. This is very, very bad, very dangerous that a person does these kinds of things. So, what do we see from there? That when it says the pasuk, Ki Rabim Chalim Pila, that he caused many deaths. According to the Zohar Kadosh, it's talking about literally. People die because of this. This is the idea, So it's considered to be a very grave sin. This thing, right? The paskin halacha, without knowing what a person is talking about, without having a basis, without having training, without having knowledge, right? All these kinds of things. So comes over here the Ramah brings a quote from the Rambam regarding this idea. And you should know, by the way, that this Rambam is a very powerful piece of Torah. I guess we'll end it with here, We can go on for all night if we, there's no end to it. Right? So, the Rambam says like this, right? Unfortunately, there is a bad group of people who are yeshiva people, basically, Torah people. Bad boys, you know what we're talking about, right? We're talking about bad, young yeshiva students. Instead of going and training themselves more, to study more Torah and to build their knowledge so one day they can become like a posek, something like that. What they do is they take a shortcut, a U-turn, and they go and sit in front of the ignorant people, ameratzot, and they teach them all kinds of things, and he makes them think that they know something, they know something, because he fools them. They don't know better. He quotes some things over here, this Zohar, this the Gemara, this. He thinks that he makes them think they know something, but really, in truth, he does nothing. What does that mean? Everything he says is distorted, convoluted, right? Twisted, all nonsense. But what happens is he sits with the Amaratzot, and makes himself like a big Rebbe, got a hat, this and peot, tzitzit, this and that, and he thinks he's like a superstar, Oh yeah, I think it's like this. He tells them all kinds of things. He doesn't know nothing about halakha. This guy, he was never trained. Came, as a 70-year-old punk. Sits there, teaches them like he's a big chacham, and he fools them like that. That's what happens. So says the Rambam, these people, right, who do this kind of thing, instead of training themselves, they go and sit with Ameratzot and teach them. When they're young like this, they're not prepared yet. So he says they're destroying the world, right? They're making machloket in the world and they're destroying the world. That's what the Rambam says. And they're extinguishing the light of the Torah. That's what he says. Can you imagine? So what do we see from there, by the way?
People like me.
What is the Rambam talking about over here? The Rambam is talking about young Torah students. This is the idea over here. They're not at the age yet. They're not trained enough. They haven't gotten their feet wet yet. And they're already coming and becoming a big Rebbe. Who made you into a Rebbe? You're 18 years old. You're a punk. What's up with you? You haven't learned finished one Gemara from cover to cover, and you're already like a big Rebbe now. Who made you into these things? Who gave you all these credentials? Go and study Torah first, and then one day you'll be a chacham, and you can come and teach. You know what I mean? That's the idea. So. Regarding this, what does it say in the Gemara? Where does the Rambam get this, by the way? This teaching that he gives. It's from the Gemara of Avodah Zarah. It says over there that a person who is not at the age of 40 yet should not paskin halacha. Not allowed until you're 40. Why is that? Because they say the Chazal, the age of 40 is the age of bina, of understanding, right? When you get to the age of 40, you start to understand things already. You get like experience. Right, exactly. Depths of understanding. You start to connect things, this together, comes together. Starts to come together. What happens is that when a person is young and he gets knowledge, he acquires knowledge, he can acquire a lot, but he still doesn't know how to connect them together, connect the dots to make like one cohesive conclusion in halakha, in Torah. It doesn't have that power yet. Once he gets to the age of 40, he starts to get that ability, if he trains himself for that. So it says the Gemara over there, that a person who's not 40, this is the reason why he shouldn't paskin halacha, because he hasn't come to the age of bina yet. And this is what the Rambam is talking about, right? Young guys like this, 18 years old, 19 years old. When are you coming into paskening halachot for people, and telling them, this is mutar, this is asur? Who gave you this permission to do such a thing like that? Who made you into a posek, who are you trying to fool? You know what I mean? So, regarding this, right, a person like that, says Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai in the Zohar Kadosh, Rabim chalalim hipila. What does that mean? He caused many people to die, a person like this. Right? So, that's the idea. Very good. So it says over here, the Ramah, a little bit further, another interesting thing, right? You have to be careful not to paskin halacha when you're drunk. You drank some wine, some beers, had some beers, or whatever it is, right? All kinds of stuff like that. I feel a bit about pashut. Even something simple you shouldn't paskin. If you're if you're tipsy, right? If you're tipsy, don't paskin halacha when you're tipsy. That's the idea. Everybody, by the way, has a different threshold with that, depending on how much you can hold. Whatever it is, right? Unless it's clear in the poskim, it says. Okay, very good. So it goes on to say, now on the other hand, right, we'll finish up with this. The opposite of what we just said now. The other side of the coin. The flip side. What is that? There are people who became already posek, they acquired that level of getting to become paskin halacha, but they don't want to. They're like shy about it, Say, oh, shy boy, I'm afraid, I'm scared, maybe I'll do some harm to somebody, I'll give them the wrong advice. Let me stay away from that, Just be a private citizen, right? Is it proper to do something like that, right? So it says in the Shulchan Aruch, Kol chacham she'egia lahora ve'eno moreh, a person who knows how to paskin and he doesn't want to paskin, harazeh muneh Torah. He's withholding Torah from the people. It's not allowed to do that. In other words, if you got to that level, you must teach the people. You must make yourself available because this is your job. Whether they pay you or not. By the way, it has nothing to do with money. This is your wisdom. You have to avail your wisdom, yourself with your wisdom. Exactly. You must make it available for people. It says also he causes people to stumble. Why is that? Because they don't have anybody to ask. If they would ask you, they would know what to do. Now they don't have anybody to ask. So you're making them stumble like that. Very bad. Right? And what does the pasuk say about him? There's also a pasuk about him, right? We said there's a pasuk about this guy who didn't get there and he tries to be there. There's also one who got there but doesn't want to be there, wants to go back home. Right? What does it say about him? Right? That the ones who are that died, there are many like that died because of him. What does that mean? He didn't give them proper advice, he didn't give them proper instruction, and because of that they died. They didn't know what to do with their life. They didn't know how to keep Shabbat. They didn't know how to keep kashrut. They didn't know how to keep nidah, their family purity. They didn't know any of these things. That's the idea. So something like that, right? We say that it's just the opposite as well. That a person who got to the level but doesn't want to use that level to educate the people is considered to be also very, very bad. Right? So says the Ramah over here, regarding this idea, a very important thing to know, by the way, the Ramah is telling you, what is the main training that a person has to have today, to become a rabbi? What's the main fundamental training that has to be given for that? Right? So the truth is, right, that in the old days, things were a little bit different. What does that mean? They used to start like from ABC, Aleph Bet, and go from Tanakh. They would learn everything by heart. The whole Tanakh they knew by heart. Then they would know the whole Mishnayot by heart, everything by heart. When they were like 18 years old, they knew everything they had in their pocket already.
When you say in the old days, how far?
Times the Talmud, right? And even after that.
Geniuses.
Right, they were geniuses, yes. No question about it. They were much more brighter than we are. Even, by the way, several hundred years ago, they were like that. Okay. So, what happens like this, that nowadays, by the way, it's not like that. The main training today is not to memorize the Torah. You know why? Because today we're not on the level to memorize so good like that the Torah. Most people cannot do that. They don't have the capacity for that. And what happens is that when you concentrate too much on memorization, you start to lack the other element, which is more important, which is the judgment. Right, exactly. And Gagiba, yeah, that's the idea. So therefore, comes the Ramah and says like this, right? The main training that a person has to have to become a rabbi, that he should be ordained to be a rabbi. You know what it is? Not only the knowledge, just to know books. That has to have a judgment, to know how to weigh one thing against the other. To know how to navigate with the logic of the Torah. That's called Dat Torah. By some big rabbis, Dat Torah. Torah is Gagiba. You know? So a person who has that, he knows how to navigate. What does that mean? You give him a source, he'll know how to understand what that means. And he'll know how to weigh this source against that source and try to reconcile them, make some kind of a coherent answer. So when a person has a level like that, he's a real chacham. Right? He's able to put together things, dissect, take apart, patch it up over here, patch it up over there, bring up here, bring up there. That's the idea. So by the way, when a person doesn't have that training yet, and he just has knowledge, like he knows books, but he can quote you, like it says over here like this, says over here like that. But to come up with a conclusion, he doesn't know how to come up with a conclusion. Why is that? Because he doesn't know how to put the puzzle together. He doesn't have the judgment. As we said, this is something which comes with age as well. Like age of 40, as we said, so forth and so on. They say, by the way, Chazal, that if you really want to succeed in your life, in your endeavors, don't go to the young rabbis, like these young gherkins, young yeshiva boys. They don't have the proper knowledge. They don't have the proper understanding. They can't advise you the proper way. So who should you go to? The elders, the older guys. That's there, right? The white beards, go to the white guys, not to the black guys, right? Why is that? Because they're the ones who understand. They say, by the way, the Chazal, that if a person always takes advice from, like all the elder rabbis like that, he'll never go wrong in his life. Everything he does will be good. Everything will succeed. Because the elders have the wisdom. They're the ones who got the wisdom, not the younger guys. So therefore, a person has to know, right? So therefore, how do we ordain a person to be a rabbi in this generation? As the Rama says over here, you have to not only to check his knowledge. That's not the main element today, because knowledge, is relative. Some have more, some have less. But there's also books, you can find things, you can locate, you can research. There's search systems, computer, you can search. There's all kinds of tricks today, to make up for the lack of knowledge. When it comes to lack of understanding, there's no trick. You know what I mean? You must have understanding in order to navigate through the texts of the Torah and come up with a proper conclusion. So therefore, what's a real chacham today? The one who knows how to navigate, right? Has the wisdom to give and take in Torah, right? Masal matan, this is the idea. If a person is on that level, then we can ordain him and say, okay, you're a real chacham. Because whatever happens with a guy like this, since he has a proper judgment, he won't get lost. Adek argeva, He'll always find himself somewhere, even though his knowledge is not so great. But a person who has a lot of knowledge but lack of understanding, you get lost very, very easily. That's the idea, right? Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen, amen. Thanks for coming. God bless you. All the blessings to you and your families, and your children, and soon your grandchildren. I think so, right? Am I right? Yeah, of course I'm right. They will come. They will come. Kam shnei tzchalobit. Amen ve'amen. Chazak u'baruch.
But you gotta also know how to teach.
Yes.
And a lot of people, they don't know how to explain it properly.
Yes.